Our dear viewers of the Civic Space Television, thank you yet again for joining us on another episode of the Community Show. Today, we have a very interesting conversation that we'll be having with a very interesting panel, a panel that is pretty knowledgeable and very passionate and of great concern issues that are happening in this country. My name is Fancy Sheila Aromorach, and I'm your moderator of this particular episode. Our conversation today is one that you probably have had and have seen over, mainstream media, the walking out of parliamentarians, particularly the opposition members of parliament, and also trying to analyze the state of human rights here in our country. And I will be giving our panelists, each of them, a minute to introduce themselves, just so that they can do justice to you, the viewers, getting to know them. And I'll start off with Honorable Christine. Over to you.
Good morning to you all. I am Christine Kaaya. I am the one member of parliament for Kiboga District. And I'm also the shadow minister for water and environment. And I belong to the National Unity Platform Party in Uganda, led by His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. Happy to be here.
We are pleased to have you, Honorable. Thank you very much. Mike, over to you. Mr. Mike?
My name, I do hash avocado, I do tomatoes, and all types of vegetables that you can talk about. Thank you.
Yeah, morning, colleagues. This is Timothy Valikenga, a human rights activist and a member who likes the citizens having their equal treatment and rights in this country. Happy to be part of this meeting today.
Thank you very much, Timothy, and we are grateful to have you as well. And lastly, our fourth panelist, Ivan. Ivan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you very much. Ivan Masawi is my name. I'm a youth leader in Mbale City. I'm an engineer by profession, but also Uganda and very intentionally interested in a better Uganda that advocates for human rights space. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I am so pleased to be hosting this particular conversation with such a great panel. And today our topic of discussion, or just us trying to interest ourselves a bit more in understanding the nature of politics in this country, but even the state of human rights in this country. And I would love to start off with a very particular and very intentional person, Honorable Christine. The walk out of parliament by the opposition, that is not something that we've seen once. It's something we're almost getting used to seeing, but also it's something that is actually intentionally practiced, not only here in our country, but in many other countries. What do we have to say about this, especially to give us context to this, especially to a layman who is listening and doesn't understand, because this might seem a form of obedience to, especially in our culture setting as a country, you're in a meeting and you just decide to walk out. Give us context to this. Over to you, Honorable.
Viewers, listeners, I'd like to remind you that in such a condition, when we have a long-serving president, where we have destructions of the constitution that we felt was right at the time of establishment, we need to appreciate that we are in an abnormal situation. So the moment you don't understand or appreciate that the condition we are in is not normal, then you'll not appreciate the preceding actions. But what can you do in an abnormal situation? It is not only just sitting down, it is not only just keeping quiet, it is not only shying away from politics. You have to do something despite the abnormality of the condition we are in. So for some of us, the few Ugandans who have decided to stand up, you need to encourage us. You need to appreciate even the smallest action we are coming up with, because the condition we are trying to show the dissatisfaction in the way human rights are taken in Uganda is not easy. It's not easy to come up in this condition and show dissatisfaction and request for redress and request for accountability. It is not easy where the regime has mastered each and everything. Each and everything is in their armpits. So it is not easy to come up with any action, and it really yields, positive results. And this is the moment when we're supposed to understand the difference between process indicators, outcome indicators, output indicators, to the extent that each and every step contributes something. I know even deep inside our hearts, we are like, if we are missing 18 people, our going out of the parliament should result into 18 people coming back, us getting those 18 people. So to a lay person, if that is not achieved, it's as if we have done nothing. But in advocacy, you have to be happy with each and every step. That is when you'll be encouraged even to push on. So our going out of parliament is as a result of dissatisfaction and is a sign for requesting accountability from the people we see are responsible for giving us accountability. Because whether you can imagine, if you can request for a lost person whom you were sure of was not taken by any government institution, if you wake up and you're missing your relative, you are missing anybody, you have to put government to an account of where your person got lost from. You can imagine if such a person can request for such a person. What about these people we really saw being taken in the government drones? I call them government drones because they held red number plates. Those people who were taken from their workplaces, broad daylight when everybody is seeing. And some are taken in big numbers, you release some, and then others get lost. So if I can demand for people who just get lost without knowing how they got lost, how about these ones who get lost in broad daylight, who are captured by the government operatives? You want us to just keep quiet about that? We have to do something. We have requested for these people since the start of this parliament, the start of this Chisandya, because the capturing of some of these people started in November 2020. So when we finished with our campaigns in January 2021, we started on the process. But some Ugandans are like, show us if you will be able to manage the country. And so you have to do a lot of things to show there is a certain proportion of Ugandans who want to see our capacity in leading this country. But then, as you do that, there are also these other people, including us, who are saying, no, but we really need to demand for our lost people. So we have been demanding somehow, quietly, trying to remind these people, we need this, up to when we felt that it is too much. These people and then we saw that human rights injustices were increasing day by day. So it came to a level where we were like, let's push on by requesting these people. And we came up with our points. Actually, the 6 points now have even increased to 7. The issue of Balalo was not part of the human rights injustice, but as we move along, we have even added it on. So we are saying some of our people are lost. Some of our people are tried they are not tried in civic courts. which is wrong. Then some of our people have taken long without getting tried. How can you stay in prison for over 3 years and you're not tried? You're not brought to court. Then we see that there is a lot of manipulation of the Muslim clerics. Then we see a lot of human rights injustices in the fisheries sector, especially within the fishing communities. And then we are also seeing a shrinking space, the shrinking civic space, including the media. We have been reliably informed that you can gather information and your editors decide to throw it in the basket. And you don't see the real news that, brings about the issues at hand. And now we have even added on the issue of Balalo. If we are aware that certain places managed customarily, how come some people manage to acquire pieces of such land? Where did they pass? Who actually sold to them? So it is too evident that some more people are getting killed. But as you know, there is also a tendency of looking at human rights as physical injuries, physical injuries to our bodies, physical getting lost, physical absence of some people. So we also need to enlighten our public that human rights do not only stop at the body injuries. There are also other injustices. For example, I'm an environmentalist, and we have climate injustices. If some people developed and emitted a lot, and you can see now the effects in our countries, destroying our infrastructure like nothing, destroying our agriculture, we need to be compensated by these people who earlier on openly industrialized, emitted in the atmosphere, and now the climate challenges depicted in the increasing temperatures are destroying a lot of our establishments. So that is the type of injustice. Yeah, also.
So, Honorable, just to pick your mind even further, is we've seen these walkouts as quite often, and I want to say even the list that has now grown to 7. Has there been an workable effects from this walk? Has this work yielded positivity in terms of the points that you've mentioned, the siege of the noob offices, the 18 people that's still missing, the killings that happened then and continue to happen? Has the walk out of Parliament actually yielded for you as opposition?
Actually, before I respond to that, I want also to put it clear that I'm time bad, like I had told you.
Yeah,
I need to join some meeting, but the walking out has yielded something. Actually, from the start of my submission, I wanted to show you that whatever small thing you do yields something. Remember, at first, we even didn't have any response from the duty bearers. But when we walked out, we saw that at least there was a response, though it came late, after 4 months, but it came late. And it highlighted a number of things. But we also got to know how the government in power is sleeping on duty, because the responses really showed us. At first, we even didn't know that they are sleeping on duty. And at first, we didn't know how their responses could be. We even didn't know what efforts they had put in. So our walking out has yielded a report, which report is like a process indicator. It is not an outcome indicator, because the people we are looking for are not yet anywhere. So we are saying that the report has not given us the exact locations or the final say on the people we are looking out for. So we tried to show them that actually some of their efforts were lame, some of their efforts were not conclusive, and some of their efforts were not actually giving the right picture. And I know if we are to request any other accountability report, our rejoined that the report that they shared with us. So it has yielded thing. And only that, we want the report be subjected to a special committee other than the formal parliamentary committees, because we form part of those committees and we have already reported. It means that these issues had left the parliamentary level and needed a special committee. So taking us back to the formal committees responding to some of these issues means we are still going round and round and round, and then we haven't yet gotten a serious update. So I would like to inform you that at least this is a process indicator, and it gave us a way forward. It also opened some of our responses that were a rejoinder to some of the gaps we saw in the report, because some of these the report proceedings were not conclusive, were not conclusive, and they showed that they needed more information, which we also provided. And I feel that within a month, I just feel we might even observe some more people getting to be known where they are. But the truth is, it is very ashamed that somebody who got lost in November 2020 up to today has no way, nobody is aware of his whereabouts. It is very ashamed. So we even wonder what government, what police, what security institutions are doing if all such people can get lost. Leave alone the people who are battered, people who are killed, but these physical people who just got lost out of our vicinity, we really need serious intervention, and government should be on the watch out. We should not lose more people, and other people are even quiet about their missing persons, because the mechanism used to find out the whereabouts of some of our missing people is threatening. These people are threatened. That is what we are saying. The civic space is getting lost. So sorry to cut you short, but I need to join the meeting, and where I am, I'm going to present some report, and they are waiting for me. But it has been nice to be with you. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. We are happy to have had you, and thank you so much for giving us good context to that. Thank you. I would love to pick up, I would love to invite Ivan, right from what Honorable just stated, the fact that the walkout of Parliament, you being a youth leader and giving us context, a youth leader to a party, a political party, but even building on to what Honorable has said, the walks out of Parliament, we see the response comes after a month from government, or it takes time, right? And even till to date, we haven't received information or clarity, or the list hasn't gone to zero yet. We are still very aware that we still have these people that are actually missing. And the opposition, in particular, the National Unity Platform, continues to face particular uncertainties, either with their space or with some of their members, or with all that is still happening. What could you tell us about the nature of government's response to issues that the opposition raises, especially in context that it decides to make a very intentional walk out of Parliament? Over to you, Ivan.
First, I start by where you ended from, is that the nature of response. I think this government has adopted a culture of arrogance, I can call it, a culture of people who don't listen, because by the time a country is being belittled to a state where it is outside there, it is as if there is a negotiation, a bargaining between the opposition and government over Ugandans, whom they all have a responsibility to lead. These MPs who are like the Honorable Hon Christine of Kiboga, first I want to thank her for being part of us. I know most of them have a very tight schedule on their weekend. But when you look at the shrinking spaces, the direction they are taking, I think it is really disheartening. As a young person, it calls a lot. to vigilance, to consciousness, to pay interest in seeing that we advocate more, at least to see that these spaces gain some life. I think the nature, even when you look at the State Minister for Internal Affairs, General David Moho's response, it doesn't give equality to the questions that are being raised. There should never be a Uganda where a person in opposition is a different Ugandan from a person in government. I think they have created a kind of classification of Ugandans that when you're in opposition, you're so bad. And they have also caused the disconnect of Ugandans, I think, especially those led by opposition MPs, I can say, from their leaders, that this issue, since it was a parliamentary issue, you really see, I think, a country that is really struggling, but it is because the system wants to justify. The system wants to justify, but with or without a protest, you can do nothing. Parliament as an institution should be empowered enough to be independent. But when you look at how long it has taken the speaker to come to consciousness, discover that she's in the house to represent all Ugandans, but not only her political party that she aligns with, all the people of Kenya that voted her. It has taken her months. I don't think Honorable Christine Kaaya, I had an interaction with the chief opposition whip, the Honorable John Baptist Nambeshe, a weekend ago as he was traveling abroad. And you could see really that no one benefits from this strike. MPs you sent to parliament not doing parliamentary work. There were bills to be passed. There were a lot of duties on the floor to be done in plenary. But the whole confusion, it is the taxpayer that loses. The very taxpayer is the very man that is incarcerated in these prisons that also needs to be fought for. I think, given that Uganda has been characterized by such habits from independence, all our leaders who have come to power have come with a similar vice. I think this vice has grown past due. I think the vice is now mature enough. Maybe it should also be in its 30s plus counting. Because by the time you even say you promise, when you look at the rejoinder that was pressed by the Right Honorable Mafias Impuga, these are issues that are understandable outside there by everyone. And when you look at highly educated people who are representing a government, come to parliament to dodge around, to market parliamentary business as it is where you go play around with others. We all know politics should be playful, should be have interest and advantage, influence. But I think there should be also a way of conducting it that teaches growth to those who need to start from you. I think we are not growing politically. That is also another big weakness that such characters exhibit. Because as we celebrate the Human Rights Day tomorrow, we are part of very many treaties. The Charter for Africa, we are in very United Nations human rights charters, all that we are embodied to fulfill some of the requirements to these charters that we put to paper as members. But if we are performing contrary, I think as we have had a celebration of the Human Rights Day, it still calls a lot, especially to those fellow younger Ugandans. I think they should not be reduced to be used that when you're in FDC, when you're in UPC, then you're a political prisoner. I think they should be given a time to rise up and say we can do better politics where we can fight more, but with all of us prioritizing saving the dignity of human rights of Uganda. It only becomes worse that the ones that who are more educated are the ones protecting it. Find someone coming on floor like I really feel bad about how this government has reduced some people, like the State Minister for Internal Affairs, when you find General David Mohoz moving around town, and then you hear the words that come, you really see people who are disconnected. They have no respect for Ugandans. Imagine, I don't know how they feel if it was their relatives being incarcerated in some of these cells. Because you can best know what to reply if you have ever had your member gone missing, and then people begin speaking recklessly, playfully, as if other people's lives don't matter a lot, as if being in politics is a very big crime in this country. But as I told you, the preamble of our history has taken, given the style of the current system, it has also failed to run away from some of its old habits. I think they have eaten it up. So it is disheartening that we have been reduced. We are also being given a wrong example as young people that politics is all about force. Uganda is growing in terms of from independence to date in other fields, but the human rights space, I think, is in a circular growth rotating around. We saw the United Nations Human Rights Commission the other day leaving. We are seeing journalists the other day being beaten. We are seeing, I think if Uganda, we want to be very sovereign, like on some of the issues as Ugandans we are happy on, then we need to have at least a line of doing things. We don't need to always be double standard. When we come to our bills in parliament that have conflict with human rights, we want to show that we are really sovereign. But when we come to the basic things of human rights, like civic space, giving someone right to good governance, someone right to participatory and consultative governance, someone right to expression, then you want to use an iron hand and then say, these are issues of Ugandans, but in others you want to participate. I think we need to have a uniform conduct of doing things as a country. So all I can conclude, I know what it feels to people like the Honorable Kaaya, who represent some of these people are arrested, and the relatives may say, it is because you are supporting maybe His Excellency Hon and Christine. It becomes very hard, it puts you in a very hard position, but this is the worst we can have in this century. We have at least now thought we have had a lot of education, a lot of advancement in terms of our capacity and human resource in government. But if we still have people who can come up, the requests were very simple. Even when you look at plain on paper, the English was still very simple and clear. But when you look at the arrogance in the response, it is not good going forward, because it shows these are just similar characters that have gone to rest, but they are coming back towards 2026 to again be put into action. So it doesn't show goodwill. If you ask me the nature of response, there was no goodwill, which is not good, because it doesn't build the confidence in the people who came in request. I think I'm yet to see if most of the proposals, like of the Parliamentary Review Commission, the Judicial Commission on Inquiry, will be implemented into action. But I think it should all about be a goodwill of seeing the Uganda we all want to be proud of when it comes to human rights. We can't be having a human rights debate where in charters where we are members, and be here in the house discussing political prisoners missing, the government denying, then accepting some, then again denying it. It really degenerates our conversation. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Ivan, for that context and response to government's nature of response, really, in terms of what the opposition has laid before them. I would love to invite Mike, hearing from both Honorable and then Ivan, what could be the missing link when it comes to opposition's call for what's happening and government's response? What could be the missing link for us here? Over to you, Mike.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you, Sheila. And before even we go to the missing link, please give me a minute and I introduce this topic properly. It's very, very unfortunate, actually, that Uganda today, in the current century, can go so low to that level. Because to me, the current constitution of the Republic of Uganda is the best we have in the country, or the best we have ever had in this country. If you look at all the constitutions that we have been having since the 1900 agreement, the Order in Council 1902, Order in Council 1920, the Constitution, the Independence Constitution, the 1967 Constitution, the Amnesty decrees, and so on and so forth. This is the best constitution we have ever had in this country. It dedicates a full chapter, chapter 4, human rights, protection and promotion of fundamental and other human rights and freedoms. Under chapter 4, it also dedicates the entire 38 articles to human rights. Article 22, Article 20, Section 2 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda lays out very clearly that the rights and freedoms of the individual and groups enshrined in the chapter shall be respected, upheld, and promoted by all organs and agencies of government and by all persons. Now, what does this mean? The constitution is okay, and people are getting lost, and nobody is bothered. And then the challenge also we have is that Ugandans think that this is an opposition matter, and they have cascaded it down to NUP. They think it is a NUP matter. This is a human rights matter. It's a human rights matter. I was expecting the entire Parliament of Uganda to rise up and say, no, until the 18 people are seen, we cannot sit in Parliament and discuss anything on behalf of Ugandans. Unfortunately, this is not the case. People are saying, no, that is for ready people. Because it takes us back as if, no, the country is leaving its civility. We are getting into very, very petty issues. So what is this? What is all this? Well, the response has come. Government has come up with a response, but it didn't need all 1 month, the whole entire 1 month. By the way, when we are talking about 1 month, we are understating the matter. This is a matter that Ugandans have been asking for the last 3-4 years. People got lost. Where are they? These people have their children. Where are these people? Where these children have their families, they have obligations. Where are these people? And you know, we are on ping pong. Then what disappointed me most is the member, the Speaker of Parliament, to go on, arm twisting and threatening and, and intimidating members of Parliament as if Parliament is for a joke. The Constitution of Uganda provides it very clearly that Parliament has the responsibility of guarding the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. Now, unless the Speaker does not know her core role, that's what I imagine. It's very unfortunate for Uganda. Now, to go to your question, I beg your pardon. What is the core question again?
What's the missing link between government running its business the way it does and its response to opposition whenever opposition calls?
Well, the missing link is simple. The country is being run without the rule of law. It is abandoned the entire rule of law. It has abandoned the national norm, which is the Constitution. and now started running it in a very primitive manner. These are very, very clear. We have been talking about, especially this particular government. It has been bashing Idi Amin as a person who was illiterate, not fit to lead this country, blah, 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 blah. But now we have graduates, we have people with PhDs running this country. And then we have a breath and say, now, where are we going? Are we really on course? Are we really on course? Now the question comes, do we need a new constitution? And the answer is no. My answer is no. It can't be. Do we need international intervention in this? I think the answer is no. Because Uganda is a sovereign state. It's a sovereign state, and we should be in position to govern ourselves. Why we wanted independence is that we were complaining about the bad laws of the colonialists, the laws that were discriminatory, the laws that were unfair. And now we have our indigenous law made by our own people. We have an indigenous constitution made by our own people. And then we go and complain and say, no, the international community should come and save us. I think that's nonsense. I'm sorry to use such a word, but we should really be more serious about the governance in this country. So the missing link is, most importantly, is that the government should be more sensitive to our people. Government should exhibit high moral grounds. Somebody was calling me from the United States and say, lots of people cannot be a political matter. That is a criminal matter. It's a criminal matter. It's a matter of justice. It's a matter of human rights. It cannot be a political matter. So he was just laughing at us and said, you people, you seem to be a step behind, because we have gone beyond that. When somebody is taken to jail, our constitution is very clear, is taken there by the police. It is only the police that has got the mandate, the powers to arrest. When the person is taken to court, taken to jail, the maximum number of hours of stay in jail is 48 hours. And I would think that government should be working towards having even less than 10 hours. So, we run businesses, always we evaluate ourselves and say, where do we go wrong? And then we correct. And after the person is taken from jail to court, the person has a right to get bail. Now, this is the ideal for Uganda. And that is what we shall fight for up to the end. So the missing link, as we said, is there's a problem with governance. There is a problem with the Parliament of the Republic of Uganda. And I think something must be done about it. And I call upon Ugandans to say, this is enough. We cannot proceed with such kind of things, where somebody just gets lost. A person has children, a person has a wife, a person has relatives, and they cannot know where that person is. And then we continue blaming the past leadership and say, no, Amin was bad, or but it was bad. There is a problem in governance. So we must work as a country to fix these missing links. We need leadership with high moral grounds for us to run this country and leave it to our children and grandchildren. Because this is a science, by the way, life is science. You like it or not, you're going to live. But how do you live this world? You must live with some legacy, positive legacy, and say, no, I put a block, I put a brick on the construction of Uganda up to this level. And our children and the ancestor, or rather, and the grandchildren will come up and say, yes, our forefathers did this, and this is our starting point. and we move towards civility. So that is my position, Sheila. We need good governance in this country.
Thank you very much, Mike. And just before I let go of you, just really to even get deeper into this conversation, where does the power of the opposition in this country lie? Knowing we have everything in place, we have, at least we followed through what our laws that do state. We have very good laws, as you've stated. We have done due diligence as a citizenry in enabling us to have a proper governance system. But then, of course, we fall short here and there. So where does the power of the opposition in this country really lie?
Yeah, actually, I wish to thank the opposition for the endeavors they have undertaken, because under these circumstances, as Honorable put it, we are working under unusual, abnormal circumstances. But to see them stretch to that level, I think they deserve a thumbs up. But generally, this government is running our affairs like in a very rudimentary manner. I think the country I can relate it to is Myanmar, where a military person just gets up in the morning and say, "No, I don't want you," and then it throws people into the crisis, and tear gas and live bullets come and people die, and you impose yourselves on the people. Professor P.L.O. Lumumba was talking about something very, very important. Not that he's the inventor, but people of Uganda and Africa at large have been thinking about it. But the issue is how to go about it. We have now civilian coups. We have civilian coups where somebody organizes an election, steals the election, and the court or the judiciary legitimizes those people. So we have a very long way to go, and Ugandans shouldn't retire from this. They shouldn't relent. We should fight on until freedom is achieved. Freedom doesn't come by simply proclamations. What Honorable Mpuga did is very unprecedented in this country, and I think it deserves a thank you. But the job is big, because when we talk about opposition in Uganda, we're talking about 8 million people. When President Museveni wins an election here, wins in quotation, he wins with 5 million and versus 3.5 million, meaning that those are not for him. But there are so many others who don't vote, but don't like his government. So we are in a crisis which we must, as Ugandans, come together and say, what is the problem? Whether you're in yellow, you're in red, you're in green, you're in blue, it is a national crisis that must be handled by all of us as citizens of Uganda. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mike, for that. And I think Timothy is one of our panelists. Timothy must be having connection issues. He's failed to join in again, but we hope whenever he can, he will be able to get back. But the conversation will continue, and now we want to even stretch further into the state of human rights. I know we have been able to point that out as we were speaking about the first part of our topic, which was the opposition's walk out of parliament. But we can now stretch into a deeper dive over the state of human rights in Uganda. And Ivan, I would love to get back the mic to you, very particularly. How would we describe the state of human rights in this country, and even more specifically, in terms of what we probably have seen, what everyone says? Honorable did mention to us how many of our lay people do know human rights violation as a physical abuse or physical point of violence. But from your perspective, how would you describe the state of human rights in this country as per this year?
Yes, thanks a lot, my moderator, for your question. Before I even come to your answer of how I would best describe the state of human rights, I want to allude to what my senior, the Honorable Mike, has just submitted. You know, a constitution is just equivalent to having good academic papers, but you can't do the profession you studied for. The whole issue of Uganda's challenge has never been actually, I think, with this current 1990. It is the implementers. It's just like you get a person with a very good first-class degree to a job, but the human being can't implement his roles and responsibilities. His job description, he can't perform. That is how I can best describe the deficiency the implementers are having from the constitution. I think when you create a good policy framework, when you set a good standards in terms of laws that should govern a country, you should also take key interest in nurturing and building the implementers, because they are the ones to fulfill what writings can. Even the gospel was fulfilled by preachers, Jesus, and the coming of a lot of other prophets. So I think where we are lacking is why I told you, when we saw the country has always, there is a way the NRM has mastered to belittle Uganda and reduce Uganda to bargain, as if when you see a national issue of a fellow Ugandan being belittled to a stake of bargaining, we shall not do this, we shall do this. There is no Ugandan who should bargain. When you see women like one of my sisters who is being tried in the court martial, being played around at the day the court martial has gone to Somalia, today it is there. What did Kenya do so bad that who is a civilian to be really Kenya to be carried to the court martial? I think those are issues that really show you the state of what we are dealing with. They always reduce the country between them and their close opponents. They have never liked the country to discuss Uganda. When you become a threat, they will reduce you between their interests. And as I've told you, politics should be so, because it is a game of advantage and influence. But you should not get an advantage. There are better ways of extending an advantage, like performing better to prove to the Ugandans that you really deserve, but not advantage of inflicting pain to cause fear and to cause more people withdraw away from political spaces, knowing, if I go to vote or I participate in supporting someone, I'll be arrested. My relatives will never see me. That is what I can shed on that. But now coming back to your question clearly, I think governance is the biggest failure in terms of human rights. There is no way you can implement human rights when the people in governance don't respect human rights. It is just like there is no way you can, these are internal habits built from home. Respect is not something you get at school. Respect people to be a person of integrity or to be a honest person. These are characters that your chemistry teacher will not give you any balance in the equation. I think these are things you may be lucky if you are born in a family with two parents. They should just be decentralized to you through your DNA, maybe from home. That our son, be honest. Ugandans, this is our culture of doing things. But as far as our culture in Uganda is concerned, it is about bloodshed. I'll beat you up. You are challenging me as who have seen it all. I can even take away this and this. I think that is the wrong direction. But with what I come again to shed for you, that as long as someone overstays in power and reduces a country to more, people need to bargain, people need to negotiate in everything. You looked at even the speaker becoming so arrogant. She was here in the FDC where I joined from just a few years ago. Both of them. But when when you look at their character, you can really say that people change. What is so hard for you to believe that maybe tomorrow? Now, do you think such a speaker can have any big aspiration better than being a speaker, even if to be a president? Because she knows her characters will be judged, hostility, that way you don't defend Ugandan. So they are being used to be demonized, to demonize themselves on behalf of others carrying out wrong acts. So this sets a bad. I'm telling you, very many young people, the reasons they shy away, like my senior put it, from elections and gave the margins that always someone maybe gets even in same character the way he handles human rights in terms of vote, and justify that those are the results that are always announced. Some of these declining margins in voting or in even the civic participation are because of the dehumanization of human rights. Because as long as you have no baseline for implementation of issues concerned with human rights, is a basic fundamental. It sets the playground. Either civic, either governance, either even work, either it's just God given, I should say. Should set a it should set a neutral ground for all of us to begin maybe exercising our potential, our abilities, and different capacities in our different gifts of life. But as long as you cause that margin that someone else will be negotiated for, and that negotiation will cost the very taxpayers who are being negotiated for, who are paying the individuals who are negotiating for them not to benefit, it will also, it doesn't add up. It's why I tell you that imagine how much is the productivity of parliament if, when we still have issues of rains fill a full city, issues of poor road network, issues of poor health, issues of lack of a national health insurance, issues of the education being flying away from pockets day and night, even issues of insecurity internally, still grappling, but parliament is being reduced from 2021 up to 2023, 2 years to the next election. You're still discussing victims and of the past election. You never want to prioritize key issues like electoral reform, key issues like bills which are bills which are on environment, bills which are on health, bills which are on how best entrepreneurs in the youth, bills which are on supporting the youth. They only identify a few which they can use as political capital, a yoga, PDM. They bring them masquerading around that it is a very framework of societies and cooperatives that existed in the past. But here the gambling is too much. Is why I told you that from the human rights side, you don't gamble. So they lost the gamble. So they act out of emotion. Since we lost governance in this, we shall just have to arrest. We shall have to negotiate. It is even in West African countries that have always had cops and the downfall of power. It has not been worse as Uganda. When you will always see them, it will happen, but things will move on faster to bring peace. But in Uganda, it is made look so smart, like it is so systematic, that you'll go to a court, you find a judge, you'll find a court martial that is very good at keeping civilians in the game for 4 or 5 years. Then he tells them you had no crime with the court martial. Yeah? They have just mastered the system of betraying Ugandans and their efforts. In the name of they are the solutions and they are the problems. So that is what I can best paint for you. But as I told you, if we are really honest with the celebrations we have had of the Human Rights Day, I think we would need time to sit down and really see how best at least we can begin atomically to address some small habits that we can change. But these issues of hoodwinking with the Maos around to justify Maos have become defenders. Is a Maguire of NRM now that he will defend this and this. It doesn't add up. Most Ugandans are never interested even in the politics. They are interested in what they benefit from what is taken away from their pockets in terms of taxes, time, what. But now when even you want to encroach on them and harm them, to completely tell them shy away from us, it is bad. I don't know if the issues that took them to the bush are not far worse than what would take us to towns because there are no bushes. It looks funny, but it's true.
Thank you very much, Ivan. And that gives us it gives us a real view of the state of human rights here in our country. And just knowing that we actually also just had a celebrations on anti-corruption, and then the concerns or the conversation really continues, and we know we have this annually, and yet we still have so many corruption cases or corruption incidences that keep happening. So this year we are called towards freedom, equality, and justice for all, as the theme of the Human Rights Day does speak towards. But really, given the context you've given us, we still see there's a big worry for us to be able to achieve this, even in the shortest time, or to be able to work towards equality and justice for all, or this is only a concern for a particular group of people to get opportunities equally, or justice for all is still really highly denied. And Mike, I want to hear from you. How can we get to the bottom line of human rights violation, given still from the context of people really missing, murders of the sheikhs, of the Muslims in Uganda, that has happened for really over a decade, and we know there's still issues around the Muslim communities that becomes a political issue one way or another, and we find this is something that is held for a short while, and then the concerns really disappear, and it's kind of hidden here and there. So how can we get to the bottom line of human rights violation in Uganda? Over to you, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Sheila. I wouldn't like actually to hear very much about the Muslim community being disturbed and ridiculed and so on and so forth, because we should really find that Ugandans are equal. When such things come up, we get so perturbed. Not that I don't want to discuss it, but it really embarrasses us, because the Constitution is very, very clear. Article 2, 20 of the rights of citizens of Uganda, under Chapter 4, states very clearly that all persons are equal before and under the law in all spheres of political, economic, social, and cultural life, and in every other respect, and shall enjoy equal protection of the law. So this idea of religious leaders disappearing, being shot, and no explanation, reports are not coming out, and then you find that it is even criminal. It sounds criminal for you to say, I belong to UPC. It sounds criminal to say I'm FDC. It sounds criminal to say I am a noob. It sounds criminal to say, me, I don't even belong to any other group, to any political group. It is humiliating, but not all is gone. I believe in Ugandans. Ugandans have been having struggles for a long time. We had struggles before the colonialists came. You remember, we had a very big battle between the whites and the Kabalega of Uganda, of Bunyoro. We also had a big battle in Buganda when they exiled our king, King Mutesa. We had a very big battle when the colonialists wanted to exploit us up to the last blood in 1953. You remember the Batak uprising, you remember the farmers uprising. We had a battle in 1966 when the colonialists wanted to use our constitution to again prevail over us. We had battles in 1979 when we had the bad record of human rights, and so on and so forth. So I trust Ugandans. I believe that we are on course. What the Parliament did recently is an eye-opener and very rejuvenating. It encourages us, and I think Ugandans can proceed. I only warn those who are insensitive to human rights. The time will come when they will not, when they will have nobody to plead to, because we have been seeing these situations all around the world, that the country or the world is run scientifically. What they say commonly is that what goes around comes around. And I thought that experience should teach those people who think that there's nobody who can turn around and make things turn around, that they are being mistaken. The French Revolution was in power for 400 years, but its end was not very good, and I think everybody knows. The Libyan Muammar Gaddafi, under his autocratic rule, was in power for 40 years, but his ending was not very good. Dictator Bokassa was in power for a long time, his ending was not very good. People like Ceausescu in Romania was in power for 33 years, his ending was not very good. People like Saddam Hussein was in power for about 24 years, under brutality, people suffered, but his ending was not very good. So in South Africa, people have been under apartheid. They were under apartheid for a long time, but the ending was not very good. We humiliated the colonialists, those who wanted to suppress the African person to nobody. And I only want to send a signal that, please, Ugandans are seeing whatever is happening. Ugandans are sensitive to whatever is happening. And those who are doing injustice to the people of Uganda should rethink and abandon whatever they are doing, and we build a country which is good for us and which will be appreciated by our grandchildren and the future generation. So that is the way forward. I can only advise, of course, when people are in power, there is usually pride. You know, pride can misguide. You think you have everything, you have weapons of suppression, instruments of suppression, and you tend to think things are okay. But we have situations where children of former presidents are even ashamed to mention their fathers because of the legacy. Somebody says, oh no, this one is a grandfather of so and so. The guy says, no, keep quiet because I don't want to be heard that I am part of this. And which is, this is a very big asset that you should be proud of, but the situation you are put in is very awkward. So we should be human. We should be human. And most importantly, nobody should think that because I belong to party so and so, I should mistreat others, or these issues are not of my concern. No, these are human rights issues. They are fundamental to everybody who's a human being, and we should work towards eliminating them and not encouraging them to go on. And most importantly, I want to thank the media like you people. You have done a very, very good job to expose some of these things and bring them to light. By the way, a fight doesn't mean you must have a gun, but what you are doing is a very, very big weapon. And it has been proven internationally or world over or in history that the media can be very effective in change. So I think what I can say is that please, when you are NRM, when you are FDC, when you are NUP, when you are UPC, when you are a member of the Democratic Party, we should understand that our destination is one. Our walkaway is the same. And therefore, we should think alike so that we can leave this a better Uganda than we found. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. As we come to the close of our show, we just want to probably pick up your mind even more specifically to each of our speakers, Ivan and Mike, and I'll continue with Ivan, then I'll bring in, I will continue with Mike, then I'll bring in Ivan after. So just building on to what you have just stated, giving context to how we can get to the bottom line of human rights, but even giving us what we need to do. I just want to understand, looking forward, I know our next elections are fast approaching, but even as our next elections are fast approaching, we have signed to so many, to a number, not so many, but to a number of international conventions, and we are part of a good number of international spaces that uphold human rights or that are working towards upholding human rights. So looking forward to what's ahead of us as a country and how bad we have been doing in line with human rights. What measures or strategies do you think should be implemented to foster a more inclusive political environment, really specifically, in the protection of human rights, given what we did share at the start of our conversation around oppositions walking out of parliaments, but really opposition's case in point or their point of power in this country? So what specifically should be done, measures or strategies, and who should be taking lead in helping us do this? Over to you, Mike, then I'll have Ivan respond to that same question.
First of all, I want to thank the opposition people in Uganda, people who are under the opposition groupings, and what they are doing is very, very fantastic. They have done a very, very good job to expose gaps in our human rights records. And I'm one person reluctant to bringing in international players into bringing us human rights. Human rights are not something that is given to us. These are God-given rights. And I also feel that the human rights cannot be implemented by our international partners. Ugandans have got a level of education. Ugandans have a level of civility. The civilization we have been exposed to is enough to show us what is good and what is bad. We are currently being led by intellectuals. What I ask them to do is to abandon elitism, abandon careerism, and abandon selfishness, and look at this country as bigger than anybody else. I want them to be sensitive to their children, be sensitive to their grandchildren, and the population that will come and stay in this country in the future. We should be sensitive to our people who are coming, and they should find this country a more organized home for them to stay in and live comfortably. So the little I can say is that the government of Uganda should be sensitive first and foremost, must be sensitive and work towards the aspirations of the people of Uganda. I know many are involved in accumulation and primitive accumulation of wealth, and they think that is all that they need in this world. But I'm saying no, that wealth is not very important to us. What we need is life. We need no threat to our existence. It is not, by the way, when I talk about human rights, I talk about everybody, wherever you belong. Because today it is me, tomorrow it is you. We have seen it, and it is not about to end. That those who come and they destroy the country, they end up themselves being destroyed. So I think that is my advice to those who are listening to us, that we need a better Uganda, not a Uganda where we have a tug of war. We negotiate for things that are obvious, and that's not okay for us. There's nobody above the law. The Constitution governs us, and nobody should be above the law, because the president also is not above the law. There is a provision in the Constitution of Uganda which says he can be tried for crimes or offenses committed during the tenure of office. So we should be sensitive to all these so that we build a better Uganda for ourselves, for our children and our children, and whoever comes after us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. Ivan, over to you.
Thank you very much, Sheila. I'm really grateful. But I think it is a responsibility of every Ugandan to work for an environment that is convenient in regards to the human rights, respect, and dignity. It is not to a compromise of anyone. It doesn't do me good. So it is just a responsibility, a fundamental responsibility of every Ugandan to work for an environment, to work for habits, to work for characters, to work for systems that respect human rights. Yet it should not be to compromise of anyone. It should not be to compromise of anyone. Should not be a compromise of anyone to negotiate or bargain from anyone. I think these are God-given, is why I insisted these may be God-given rights to every man and woman. Misuse of power in Africa, it continues but we should feel bad that we have acquired some sense of advancement, especially in where things should be done. We have at least compromised our traditional settings to adopt international standards of doing things. So as I told you that as the Human Rights Day was celebrated yesterday, it should not be always just a ceremonial or a tradition or a ritual that we have dates on the calendar, but we pay no respect and allegiance towards their value. So I think that is all I can submit. I'm really grateful for your time. I extend my sincere appreciation to Center for Constitutional Governance. Have a blessed week.
Very, very much. So, our dear viewers and listeners, you've heard it very clearly. Our topic of discussion was the opposition work of parliament and the state of human rights here in Uganda. And our speakers have given us context to each of those, but even giving us what needs to actually be done, ways looking forward, or how do we move forward from already the mess that has been made by government, most especially in terms of their response, and even where could the missing link be around addressing some of these things. And we did not, by one of our speakers, there's a point of there is a weakness in our governance structure, and clearly our parting shots from our speakers was around the need for everyone to take this as something of great concern. Human rights defense or promotion is not a thing for only a particular group of people, as maybe the executive or the judiciary or the legislature, but it's a concern of every human being. by virtue of you being a human being and knowing that you actually have human rights. And so it should take all of us to be able to create an equal and just world for everyone. Thank you very much to our panelists, Honorable Christine, who we had at the first moments of our show, who had other engagements and left. But thank you very much in your absentia. Thank you very much to Mike for joining us and passionately sharing and even giving us great context even to what we had before in terms of history. And very much thank you to Ivan, our youth leader from the Forum for Democratic Change. My name is Fancy Sheila Aromorach, and I was your host for this particular episode of the community show. Do join us yet again for another episode next week on Monday, and stay tuned to our platforms that's here on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram, so that you do not miss any of our shows that happen even in the week. Thank you very much and have a happy, happy, happy December and a happy week ahead. Thank you very much.